Beautiful. Beautiful to be here with all of you. Yeah, so our next retreat is up on the website, and it's December 6th through the 8th, and we will be investigating spiritual empowerment. We'll be really diving deeply, looking at this question of, well, what does it mean to be spiritual and empowered? So often we think of being spiritual and being weak and humble and vulnerable and disconnected from this world. But our world is a giant mess. It's a giant mess because we are not engaged, because the truth of us is not engaged. Our world is a mess because narcissists and liars and warmongers and greedy individuals are really engaged. They're like, let's create some wars and sell bombs and become quite wealthy, become rich. And it's a silly thing. It's a silly thing that this is the state of our world. It's a silly thing that humans are still stuck in tribal consciousness. And I cannot wait. Normally, I'm really patient, but I cannot wait until this election is over and everyone takes down their signs and people stop parading around with their bullshit and their righteousness. And we begin to wake up and realize that politics will not save our world. Politicians will not save our world. Our world will be saved when people of truth start speaking the truth, start living the truth, start commanding the truth. And sometimes when we hear a teaching like this, we think, oh, I need to go out and tell everyone how wrong they are. I'm going to tell you an experience that I had with a couple of other Sangha members. The other day, I found myself just hanging out. I was watching my little girl and her friend, and her friend's father. Oh, he wants to be a priest. He's a friend of mine. And, he called up and he was checking on his daughter. I said, hey, Michael, what's going on? And he said, hey, Craig, we're want to come get my girl and we're going to go to confession. Would you like to go? And immediately I just heard this big resounding yes in my heart. Yes. And I'm not a big confession type of guy, but it's like I heard this yes within me. And it was a command from God. And so I found myself like 20 minutes later, in line for confession. And this was a new priest. I'd never met him before. And actually an Indian fella from India, actually from quite near a couple of the places that I studied in India. But anyways, I went in there and I sat down and he asked me, well, how long's it been? And it's like, gosh, it's been a long time, Father. It's been a long time. But let's just get down to it. Let's get down to it. And so I started to share with him some of the ways I've really tripped and ways I've really struggled in this world. And so when I'm speaking about us going out into the world and sharing the truth, for many of us, the truth might start with, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Forgive me, wife, for I have sinned. Forgive me, son, daughter, sister, brother, for I have sinned. Forgive me. Forgive me. I've been a fool. I've made mistakes. I've lied and manipulated and stolen in all kinds of ways. Forgive me. I have been wrong. I have been wrong. And I can tell you that it felt so wonderful. It did feel a little bit silly at first, because again, I'd never met this priest. I didn't know who he was. I didn't, um, and I couldn't, I didn't know too much about his character or his spiritual nature or anything. When God tells you to do something, I'm going to encourage you to listen. Encourage you to listen. And this is what it means to speak the truth. Right now, so many people think they know what it means to speak the truth. And it means I am right, you are wrong. Let me shove my politics or my opinions. Let me shove it down your throat, or let me just shove it all into your field. But one of the great things we need as humans right now is a willingness to listen to each other, to be with each other, to hear each other, to understand each other, to hold space for each other, to be kind and compassionate toward each other. And we are never going to be able to do this if we are full of righteousness, if we are guarding and defending, if we think we are better than, if we think that we know everything and the world knows nothing. And I don't know what it is about humans, to be so righteous and to get so carried away. It's a funny thing too. Again, I think it was last week was the World Series, and forgive me if I screwed that up, but it's like we can get lost in a sports team. It's like, how silly is that to get so lost, in a sports team? And so we get lost in that. I mean, my God, like when things get a little bit more serious than sports, like politics right now, so many of us get so lost in the insanity of politics. So lost, so overwhelmed, and so conditioned by corporate media and all these voices online telling us how we should be. If you are, most of you are in the United States. Well, come Tuesday, I encourage you to vote in alignment with your deepest heart. Your deepest heart. Not your emotional heart, not your conditioned mind, not your tribal party. But I'm going to encourage us to vote every day of our life. Every day. We vote by consciously choosing the words that come out of our mouth, consciously choosing to listen. You're like, oh, someone else is speaking. Maybe I should stop and listen to what they're saying. Hear them. See them. When you choose to see another human being, you're choosing to see God. But when we judge another human being, and it is ridiculous how much judgment there is here on planet Earth right now. We other them. We shut down our hearts. We close off our heart. I've told this story many times, but I'll say it again because it's so hilarious to me that once upon a time, in my first marriage, when it was ending, my former wife convinced me that all women hated me. And I walked around in the world with this very funny feeling. This feeling of being absolutely separate and not welcome, ostracized by half the population. By half the population. Now, I was reflecting a little bit on this tonight, and there were all kinds of women around me who did know me, who I was friends with, who really loved me. And somehow I missed that point, but I just had this feeling that half the population of planet Earth hated me. And within that, I responded with some level of complacency. Like, I believed it. I didn't question it very much. And I othered them. So this thing that one person said to me made me shut down from half of humanity. Now, I have no idea who's going to win this upcoming election. But in the polls, it says that it's pretty much 50-50. That either party could win. But when a race is like this, when it's 50-50, well, there's a good chance that we are on one of those sides. And I want to make sure that we as a Sangha are not looking out at that other side and othering them, calling them morons or idiots, or, the big one now is Nazis. They're Nazis. Everyone who's a Republican is a Nazi. It's like, come on now. Please relax. Like, please. When we play this game, and forgive me if you're not in the United States, but we all do this, whoever the bad guys are. And if we look out at them and other them, we close ourselves off from seeing the divine. In this case, in half the population of the United States. And that is an insane thing to do if you're a spiritual being. Now, if you're a normal human tribal creature, that's that's just normal life. I was speaking with my mom about this. I said, my God, the division is so crazy right now. And, my mom, she's just about 80, and she said, oh, no, it's always been this way. And I was like, really? And she's like, oh, yeah, all elections get real nasty like this, and everyone's always fighting. And, I'm not concerned like whether, if I'm right or mom's right. It's a sad thing. It's an insane thing. It's an insane thing. Like even if you just get in a fight with your partner and you put up this wall and you say, no, I am right, they are wrong. And the more we sit in our righteousness, well, the more alone we feel. The more alone we feel. I can remember one day, I asked one of my kids to do something, and they looked at me and they lied and they said, I don't know how to do that. And I said, yes, you do. And they said, no, I don't. And they really like hunkered down, in their psyche. And I said, okay, fine, I'll show you how to do it. And as I began to show her how to do it, she had this little mischievous smile, where she manipulated dad and, got me to dance for her. And, she kind of flexed her power. But she flexed her power through lying and manipulating me. Now I responded with some fury, just like, how dare you? What the hell are you doing? Don't you lie to me? This and that. And, afterwards, I just noticed like, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to feel alone. I don't want to feel separate from my daughter. I don't want to fight with her. I don't want to fight. I don't want to struggle against. And so then I can remember I went outside. I said, hey, sweetie, now come on now. You were lying to your dad. And she kind of heed and hawed. And then she smiled a little bit. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. That's it. That's the only truth I'm going to get here is your little smile, because we all know when we lie. But just as I began to talk to her and apologize, for my anger towards her. I mean, she should have been apologizing, for lying and manipulating me. But, that's beside the point. I came into a sense of unity with her again. A sense of unity. The problem with being a spiritual being, one of the great problems, is we are asked to take the higher road. We are asked. In fact, God demands it of us. When I was in confession the other day, I was speaking to the priest about this anger that I had, toward this great injustice. And he said two things, and I like it that he said two things that were paradoxical. And he said, Jesus got really angry too at injustice. And that helped me to feel at peace that I wasn't bad and wrong for having this experience of anger. And then he turned up the heat again. And then he said, and Jesus also taught, basically when you get slapped on one cheek, give them the other cheek. And I was just like, dang, that's a hard teaching. That's a tough teaching. It's a tough teaching. It's a tough teaching. To always take the higher road. But if we want to be free, if we want to be undivided, we can't be righteous. We have to be willing to listen. We have to be willing to reconcile. And sometimes we have to be willing just to sit in the silence and let whatever happened burn and 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 burn until it turns to ashes. Until it turns to ashes. And that's a hard thing. That's a difficult thing. And that's why in any great spiritual tradition, there's going to be some practice of meditation, spending time in silence. And I'm going to invite us all just to take a moment here and to close our eyes. And just to ask yourself, what is it within you that veils your consciousness? What is it that you have tripped over? What is it that you have not forgiven? Or who is it that you have not forgiven? And that can be yourself. And whatever it is, I invite you just to lift it up into this space of silence that is here. And within this silence, let us acknowledge that there's plenty of room. There's space. There's space for whatever it is that we've held on to. There's space. In fact, there's so much space that God allowed whatever it is that we struggle with. God allowed whatever this thing is, was to happen. And if it was completely wrong, if life didn't want it, it wouldn't be here. It's a hard thing to admit. That in this world, God allows so much to happen. And so in this silence, let's just start by acknowledging whatever this thing is that we trip over. It did happen. And I imagine if we're still holding on to it, it's because there's some recognition that this thing hurt. It's a funny thing about us humans. We tend to hold on to things that hurt. And I want us to really hear that. We tend to hold on to the things that hurt. And so I will ask you from a place of consciousness, a place of spiritual empowerment, a place of choice. Do you want to still hold on to this thing? And if the answer is no, can you give it back to the silence? And for some of you, you might even have a feeling of lifting it up and out, giving it back to the silence. giving it back to life, giving it back to God. And if any of you have something really persistent within you, I invite you to notice this fire and this light of your presence. And so we're noticing the space, the silence, the peace. But can you also notice the light of your presence? Like a fiery heat and aliveness. And can we invite this fire, this indestructible light, to begin to burn brighter and brighter and brighter? Inviting this light to burn up your darkness or your confusion, or this thing that you've struggled to forgive or to let go. And at some point on the path, we have to make a choice. Are we going to worship our light? Are we going to worship the silence by giving it our time and attention? Or are we going to worship the repetitious nature of our thinking mind? What is it that we are going to worship? We worship by giving our time and our attention. And just noticing in this moment, giving the silence and giving your light a couple minutes of your attention. And this silence and this light really begins to grow and amplify. And so I ask you this moment, I ask you each week, what kind of person are you? Are you a spiritual being who's willing to throw everything that's obsolete on this divine fire? Or are you an egoic human being who says, nope, I'm going to be attached. I'm going to hold on. I'm going to be unconscious and asleep. I continue to repeat the past in my mind, my heart. And if you notice that when you do that, it covers your soul. And your heart begins to feel dead. It's this funny power that begins to happen within us when we say, I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. I'm sorry for being confused, for being attached, getting worked up, fired up, carried away, being lost. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. And if you just notice, like, there's a lot of fire and heat coming into the room. This is an expression of spiritual power that comes online. Not through flexing, not through being righteous, not through screaming our opinion at someone else, not through writing them long emails and telling them how they are wrong. But I want you to notice directly what happens when you say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And I love you. I invite you to say this prayer to yourself, to your enemy, or people you disagree with. I think I don't know if any of us have any real enemies here on planet Earth. I know there's, a couple people in the Sangha who are in active war zones. And so, those folks might have some real enemies, but, even that, if you're in Israel, do you really hate the Iranians? If you're an Iranian, do you really hate the Jews? You may hate the Jewish government. You may hate the Iranian government. You might hate the current government. You might hate the government that, if it changes on Tuesday, it's like, but this is not the way to live. It's not a way to live in hatred. It just doesn't work. Now, at the same time, after we've done our penance, after we've asked for forgiveness, after we've been humble and reconnected ourselves to God and to the truth, to the silence, we can ask God, well, what's my next step? Is there an action that needs to be taken, or behavioral change? And again, like when we look at power, so many of us think about the things we need to do. But many times, like if you want to get your power, if you want to stand in the truth, there's things that we have to undo. And the undoing might include an addictive tendency, like smoke or drink, or it might be an addictive tendency to spacing out on the internet. And sometimes it's just a tendency in the way we speak, where we belittle ourselves. We chronically see ourselves as unworthy or less than. And taking our power back means we are going to see ourselves as worthy, as good, as children of God. As children of God. And sometimes we need to see ourselves as a child of God. And at other times, we need to see our neighbor as a child of God. A neighbor who we've disagreed with, argued about the fence or the loud music or whatever it is. And so together, as we continue to open to this silence, you see that this silence, it comes with a heat and a fire. But the silence also comes with a profound intelligence. And sometimes the intelligence of the fire is, the intelligence of the silence is stop. Like stop all that constant commenting on life, talking to yourself, judging, guarding, defending, manipulating, strategizing. When you sit in the silence long enough, these things get gobbled up. And so if you are someone who struggles with doubt, you lift up this doubt and give it to the silence. Can you not touch it? Can you not listen to it? Can you not allow yourself to be directed by doubt, by fear, by anger, by confusion? Some of us, it's so silly, are addicted to confusion. And so we might ask, well, what is that about? Like, why would I be addicted to confusion? Well, so many of these things are ways of giving ourselves permission to not take responsibility for our life. So instead, we choose to be confused, which again sounds insane. It's just like so many of us are addicted to doubt. It's just like we doubt and doubt and doubt and question, question, question. And then we never have to go out and actually live our life. We can just stay at home and just doubt, 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 doubt. A way of avoiding. And so I invite you to really look and to see, what is this silence telling you? And for many of us, it's just saying, come here closer. Let me swallow you up in this great peace. In this great peace. In this great light. And so here in this moment, can you allow yourself to be swallowed up in the presence of God? The presence of the Christ. And begin to notice, well, what is that like? What is that like? Like, give yourself permission to let go of the small egoic identity and be gobbled up in the silence. And for many of you, you'll notice as we let go of that anchoring in the ego, and we let go into God, there can be a groundless feeling. And so I ask you, do you trust in the nature of God? Do you trust in the vast expanse of silence? Can you give yourself permission to unhook, become unhinged from ego, and see, what is life like? What is life like? What is life like? When you let go of that which is human, and step into that which is divine. You step into this great mystery. What is this mystery wanting from you? And for some of you, you may find this mystery has specific instructions for you, behavioral changes, things it's wanting you to let go of. But ultimately, this mystery wants to gobble you up and return you to you. And return you to you. So what is it like when you return to the light? When you become this vast, radiant presence? You come to see that this is a whole other orientation. An orientation without walls, without ideas, without dogma, without emotion. It's a whole other way of being. Quite different than to be egoically driven. And so I'm going to invite you all to stay with your experience. And if you like, you can open your eyes and invite some of you to share. You can share in the chat, or you can raise your hand. What is it like to be gobbled up by the silence? Can you speak from the silence? Can you share from the silence? Can you honor your being? Can you honor it? Can you invite your being into earthly reality? Into earthly reality. For thousands of years now, humans have divided the world into the world of the divine, just silent and heavenly, pristine, ineffable, indescribable, and the world of the human, heavy, dense, full of thought and emotion and politicking, warring, driving. And in this moment, I'm inviting you to share your light in the world. to share your light in the world. Or we can just leave the world alone and just drift into silence, which it seems like what everybody's doing here tonight is leaving the world alone. And when we do this, well, the world doesn't change. The world stays the chaotic mess. But I can see that so many of you just want to stay in the silence because the world seems to lack it. It seems to lack it. And so please, someone come forward and write something in the chat or share a little something. Blair's going to raise her hand here. Yeah. Thank you for being brave. Hi, Blair.
Hi. I feel like this really eternal silence,
Yeah.
that it's what I am.
Yeah.
Um,
You trust in it?
yes, but then something sometimes comes back and it wants to be in control.
Yeah. Do
Um,
you, do you need to control the silence?
that part of me tries to because it feels scared.
Yeah. So let's just sit here in the silence and it's telling you, hey, I feel scared. And we can honor that. What is it scared of in the silence?
It feels like it always says it's scared of getting trapped.
Getting trapped?
Yeah.
Like trapped in the silence? Or
Yeah, because it's like the silence is eternal, so it's like you can't get out.
yeah, yeah. Now, some advanced spiritual beings might be like, oh yeah, let's get trapped in eternity. That sounds great. That sounds great. Now, there was a fella, I think I can't remember when it was, maybe around the year 2000. He wrote this book, called The Power of Now. He got trapped in eternity. It's like, and I don't know if there's any danger in it. So sometimes it's a little confusing. Like I've been confused all day. Like, what time is it? And all we did was just have a 1 hour time change. And all day long, like my human mind, it can't find any grounding in what time it is. It's just like something isn't right. That normal way of measuring and, having this idea something is progressing. It's like, well, it's just eternity. We're just here in eternity. What time is it? It's right now. It's right now. It's always right now. And when we see that, like to me, that's a liberating realization. It's just right now. But is there something about eternity that's frightening for this part of you?
Um, Something about the out of control and the annihilation.
Yeah. Blair, I'm going to invite you to take that word annihilation out of your vocabulary. And if you just like look like right now, even if the mind is screaming, like, I'm being annihilated, it's like, it seems like you continue to exist. Like, isn't that the truth?
Yeah,
You haven't been annihilated yet. Now, there may be parts of you that fall away, like the same way, um, can you remember when you were in the sixth grade?
yeah.
Like, what was your favorite thing to do when you were in the sixth grade?
Uh, cheerleading.
Cheerleading. I love it. I love it. Cheerleading. So, um, is the cheerleader still here?
No.
No, no. And we can say she was annihilated, or we can just acknowledge, just like with time, as we grow, some things fall away. Some things fall away. And, like the cheerleader might fall away. Now, I can remember when I was young, a couple of my friends played hockey, and the cheerleaders for hockey, they had a different name. They were called hockey honeys, the hockey honeys, and so I had some friends who were hockey honeys. And, you know, I doubt that any of them are hockey honeys anymore. Like, I doubt that they are hockey honeys. Like, that thing died, it fell away, and they're just fine. And so, like, if I ask you, like, the cheerleader fell away, are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I keep having the like literal perception when my mind tries to control that I'm literally trapped in hell for eternity. But like the when I'm opening now to the presence, it's saying that that intense difficulty is like my greatest teacher and it's forcing me to be free.
Yeah, yeah, it's forcing you to be free. So there's this feeling or struggle that you're trapped in hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like, is there any truth to it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, tell me how. Like, tell me how you're trapped in hell.
Just because I'll go into a place of like extreme terror and it's like a timeless place. So it'll feel like it's like an endless
Yeah,
hell.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's good. And yeah, I encourage you to look directly at that terror and to see what makes it up. Like, what's the actual energy of it? The actual energy. So if you look, like, can you find any of it right now?
Yes.
Okay, good. And so, like, when you first look at it, we could say, well, it's terror and it has this feeling of fear, and there's, the emotion of fear, right? But if we look at it purely on the level of sensation, like, what's the direct experience of this thing that we call terror?
Just absolute burning fire.
Absolute burning fire. Yeah. And so I'm going to invite you to call it that. There is an absolute burning fire here.
Yeah.
And, can we just feel into that, open into that? Now, some people might call that light. I personally just walk around with burning heat all the time, even when I'm freezing here in Colorado because it started snowing today on us. Um, but this burning fire, I call it radiance. And when I call it radiance, there's a lightness in it, a buoyancy. If I called it, you know, burning terror and fiery hell, it'd be like I could make myself, really sick. I can make myself really sick. And so I encourage you just to acknowledge there is an absolute radiance here all the time. And, the word the Buddha used for that was luminosity. And the word the Christians use for it is the Christ. It's like a fiery light of aliveness that cannot be destroyed. It is in everything. It's the fabric of all of reality. The fabric of all of reality. And you're shaking your head. And so,
Yeah.
when we open to this, say, I am opening into the Christ. I am the Christ. You feel deeply full of love and radiance and spiritual force. Or if we step outside of it and get into a place of control, you try to control the Christ, and you'll feel like that, like the Christ is going to burn you alive. And the only you that it really wants to burn alive is the one who tries to control, the one that tries to separate, the one that tries to divide.
Yeah, feels like the most absolute vibration in the universe.
It is. It is. Yeah, it's light. It's light. It's a huge thing. I mean, it doesn't get any big. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So you're smiling now a little bit. It's the biggest thing. So can we enjoy it? Can we enjoy it? And so when we when we're separate from it, it'll feel like, oh my God, I got to control that thing before it destroys me. I like to be, kind of crazy. I like to go in the direction of the thing that scares me and see what is this thing? Like, how big is the glory of God? How big is the glory of my presence? And you see it's infinite. And so can you allow yourself to be infinite? Well, thank you, Blair. Anything else you want to share?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. It's so good to have you in the song up there. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. All right. We'll hear from Kyle.
Hello.
Hi, Kyle.
Hey there. I forget the question.
You're going to tell us all what you confessed to the priest on Friday. That's,
I
that's not
confess.
the question. The question was um, to share your direct experience of being gobbled up by the silence, what it is like when you give yourself over to this massive presence. You step out of the ego. What is that like? What is that like for you, for Kyle?
I began to feel the earth underneath, um, almost as if it's like rising through my body, um, my like auric field, I guess I would call it.
What's that word you said?
Auric field.
Auric field. I
Yeah.
want your friend John to use uh, those words when he goes and becomes a priest. I'm sorry, I have to mess with you guys a little bit. I have to mess with you a little bit. Okay, so say it again. You're feeling the earth rising.
There's an ascent of the earth through my body, the I guess in science they say the electromagnetic field of my body.
You can call it the auric field. I'm just giving you a hard time, Kyle. I can't control myself sometimes. I just had to, I had to laugh a little bit, about with spiritual beings, myself included. Yeah, with your auric field.
I just like saying auric field more than my aura. I don't know. I just can't
No,
say it.
I like it. I like it. Auric field. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and there was a like a 20-second period where I just felt like heaven like opened up and
Hmm.
the earth's energy like rose up
Yeah,
into it.
yeah.
Uh,
So only 20 seconds. Can you feel any of that now?
I can feel it now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It also comes with a descent as well.
yeah,
The descent is light, and it seems like it's descending everywhere up along the earth.
yeah.
But I guess from my perspective, it feels like there's a concentration of it, like through this body.
Yeah. I mean, God is always, like heaven is always descending down into the earth, creating a force and a pressure for evolution, for divine growth. Yeah, so that's always here, but not many people are aware of it. Oftentimes we just feel pressure from life, and many people just act out, in response to it. It's like the ego tends to resist, divine light. But as spiritual beings, we're opening to this movement of God and welcoming it. Yeah, so I hope you feel concentration of it in the body. Yeah, beautiful. Anything else?
During you were talking about the silence, I heard someone outside of my apartment speaking, and there was a strong knowledge that, like, oh, that's me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So a feeling of oneness and unity with all the life. Yeah, yeah, beautiful, Kyle. Anything else?
That's it.
Yeah, thanks for showing up. And it was good to see you and John at uh, I want to call it communion because that's what it felt like to me, but confession the other day. It's nice to see you guys there,
Mhm.
just from across the church. So anyways, that made me smile. Made me smile. So beautiful, Kyle. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Let's hear from Imani.
I just wanted to, uh,
Hello, Imani.
hello,
Good to see you.
good to see you. Um, so I was meditating with Mother Mira this morning, and same thing. It was like this invitation to be gobbled up, and uh, so there is. So what I want to confess is that this is the only thing that I really want in
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
and there is. It's like I have felt it in my heart, but this time in my belly, this like when I get close, really close to that, I start to weep. It's like wanting this more than anything.
Yeah. Good. Good. It's a good thing to want.
And I got this twice today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also like I had 3 meditations today, so and like kind of like what Kyle was saying, there was this kind of connecting
Yeah.
downward to the earth and then to the heavens, like it felt like that. And there was this alignment,
Yeah.
um, lots of silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also I wanted to share with you, I like to do this with you, Craig, the card that I pulled today.
Durga. Yeah. Look at that, huh? Look at that. I like it. Missing a tooth too, huh?
Do you see there's an arrow and there's the skull going through the skull, like it's like
Oh, yeah, it's giant here. Yeah, like a spear. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look at
and
that.
there's lightning, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, a lot of power, a lot of transformation there. Yeah, that's beautiful.
And also I want to say this retreat coming up, I feel like it's already here for me. Like I don't know, that's how it
Yeah,
feels.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's felt like that for me too. And I keep feeling it starting, and I'm just like, it's a month away. I'm just like,
I know.
it's a month away. But I think as a sangha, one of the things, and I haven't spoken about this too much, but sometimes there's just these these threads and these transmissions that begin to come. And it's like we have a theme that we work on for a period of time. And yeah, so you're right. You're right. You're right. We're in it. We're in it. Yeah. Thank you, Imani. Yeah. Yeah. How beautiful. Yeah. Imani's really given her life to God. Really given her life. Okay. Let's hear from Lauren.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, Lauren. Good to see you. Gosh, a lot of you are in the dark, but I guess I guess most of us are in the dark now with the time change. So it's good to see you, Lauren. What's going on with you?
So I put something in the chat, but now that I've remembered how to use words, I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit. Again, like everybody said, there was a flow downward and then kind of like upwards, and then there was space, and I was the space, and I could feel parts within me that were burning up. But the most profound part of it was just the matter of factness of that, and just how true it was.
Yeah.
And
How
the simplicity.
It is.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's here. And that's like, this is a skill for us to open our eyes after meditation and to continue to allow the grace of God to move through us and to speak through us. And like you said, there's a matter of factness of it. Now, there's a number of you, in this room who like work in the schools. And I encourage all of us all day, every day, wherever we're at, to be open and connected to this grace, to be open and connected to the power of the earth, and to be open and connected just to this matter of factness that radiance, light, love, silence is here. And I can remember, I'll say this, when I was a young school teacher, just for a minute there, like I'd be in the classroom and I'd look out at the kids, the students, and I worked with just like the guys I worked with were like mostly just a bunch of punks, it's like just the delinquents. And look, I don't need to be politically correct. Most of them would acknowledge they were delinquents. And I'd look out at them and there'd be all this silence and all this light and this radiance and then this grace of God, and just holy vibrations would flow down into me. And like a lot of the time I would almost be like tripping out because there'd be so much energy there, and I'd look out at these kids and they'd be all, bouncing off the walls and hitting each other and doing this and that. And, you know, going out, to the car or out, down by the creek and, smoking something they shouldn't, and, coming back to the classroom and this and that. And there was just all this grace, all this light, just flooding my classroom. And it was beautiful. It was just so beautiful. And so I'm going to invite us all just to play with it. So really embodying it, being open, being in a state of communion with the divine. And just seeing like, well, what is that like? What is it like? And for some of us, that's like a little too much. So can we do it in our car on our drive to work? Can we do it in our quiet time, our planning time at work? And then, slowly but surely, can we invite it more fully into our life, like into our work life, our vocation? And you start to see it transforms, it literally transmutes our vocation. And we may call ourselves a school teacher, but I mean, now when I was a teacher, a school teacher, I felt, like a spiritual teacher. There was just so much spirit there all the time. So much there all the time. And so let's welcome it. Yeah, beautiful, Lauren. Anything else you want to share?
Not right now. Thank you.
What do you think? I'm going to ask you though, what do you think about you being this light when you're teaching? You think you can pull that off?
Yeah, it comes to get me sometimes.
It comes to get you. And see, I like that. It comes to get you. And that's one of the things I want us to see tonight. Like most of us think we are seeking God. But God is busy seeking us. Is busy seeking us. And sometimes God will just come and just be like, boom, I am here. And so we have to learn how to deal with it or embody it. It's like dealing with it's like, oh my God, I can't handle this. This is too much. Or it's like, okay, God is here. God has faith in me. Okay, I can do this. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to feel. I'm going to open. I'm going to do my best to keep it between the lines. Yeah. Beautiful, Lauren. Beautiful. So good to have you here. Yeah. All right. Good night. Okay, let's see. One more. We'll hear from David Morris.
Hi.
David. Hey, good to see you.
Thanks. Good to see you all.
David,
as
real
well.
quick.
Yes,
What's the temperature there in Florida?
it's like about 75 right now, right here.
That sounds perfect. That sounds perfect. That sounds perfect.
And it's just a little too humid to let the windows and doors wide open because it's 75 but humid, so I've got the air conditioner on.
Yeah. And
But anyway,
I love some humidity. I love some humidity. So,
yeah.
well, what's going on with you? What's your experience been?
Well, I just only chiming in because of the subject matter, which was like what is the experience of, I guess the phrase of sort of being absorbed or being becoming engulfed by the silence or something like that. And I guess my recent experience and growing experience, I'm a lot of my Kundalini flow is happening, at a very high level, like for large periods of my day, and it's which is fine because I'm essentially living, a retiree, no responsibility life for the most part, and but what I'm seeing in terms of my experience as sort of piecing together, all these different flows all the time, you don't really pay attention to any one specific thing going on. Just like the pattern just goes on, sometimes strong, sometimes less, et cetera, et cetera. But then, I guess overall, beginning to feel like, these flows in these fields, just the phrase field we used earlier, auric fields or whatever, I've beginning more and more to feel like, literally my being is for a long time been feeling, is much more than my body. It's this bigger energy field. But then now I'm also feeling as if I'm like moving through a field that's connected like a web more than a field, more like a web that's connected to everything else, like literally moving through. And I don't like, and I can almost feel it as I'm moving through spaces, I've always been, very much feeling the grounding sort of magnetic flow, but now I'm feeling something more almost like a web, like I say.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And it's interesting because Kundalini is just one of the ways that God really wants to be in matter, in form. And, sometimes like as spiritual beings, we just feel so etheric, but other times you'll feel like literally, like you said, like a physical connection or a web-like connection to all the reality. And, it's endless the ways we can experience God, endless the ways we can experience the divine. And, you're an interesting character because like each week you show up and your experience is so rich and so dynamic and ever unfolding. And, it's amazing. That's how mine has been, just constantly unfolding and, always showing me something new. And, then even I'll have these big periods where I go into the void and there'll be just great emptiness, and then I come out of that and it's just more, opening and unraveling and different ways of experiencing God that I had no idea were even possible. And so it is without end. It's inexhaustible, the ways we experience the divine. So thank you, David, for sharing, and thank you for bringing some of that Florida warmth into the song, my friend. Yeah, good to have you here. Okay. Well, everyone, it's been beautiful to be with you all. And I want us to just to end with a prayer. And, if we close our eyes and inviting this radiance, this light, this love to shine out all over planet Earth. We're inviting there to be an ending to the wars and to the violence, the great chaos that's been here on planet Earth, the ending of this political division here in the United States and throughout the world. We're calling forth unity. We're calling forth reconciliation. We're calling forth compassion. We're calling this forth first within ourselves, and eventually for it to flow out to the world. And oh Lord, if there's any ways you can use us as instruments of peace, instruments of love, instruments of compassion, we ask you to lead us and to guide us and show us the way. We ask that your peace and your will triumphs. And we ask that it happens sooner rather than later. God, please help us humans down here on planet Earth. We've made such a mess of this world. I ask you to bring harmony, restore order to our planet, to our ecosystem. And to all nations. May all beings be blessed. May all beings be free. May all beings rise into the light and live the highest truth now and forevermore. Okay. So much love to each of you. Deep respect. And I'll see y'all next time. Okay. See y'all. Bye.